So, over the weekend, I took a break from playing Battlefield 5 to take a chance on the highly anticipated yet also concerning Anthem, another EA title that seems to be getting more and more crucial in hoping to stop the bleeding that EA has been enduring for the better part of a year and a half now. And it seems like after every single week, more pressure is put on the back of BioWare to deliver a hit game with Anthem, or at the very least, have the game not completely fail. So, with that being said, I decided to download the demo and give the game a fair shot, thinking that at the worst I would play it, not like it, and turn it off in 30 minutes or so and call it a day. And at the very best, I might enjoy it so much that I potentially make it another featured game on my channel along with Battlefield. Because not many people know this, but before I switched my focus to Battlefield, I was really into Destiny, and I played it hours upon hours a day with my friends, especially during the Taken King and Rise of Iron DLCs, and I made a lot of friends that I still have to this day. Destiny 2 flopping was the main reason why I began to put extra time into Battlefield 1, and well, you know where I am today. So, the genre of the looter shooter does have a special place in my heart to some degree. So, a game by the name of Anthem is announced at E3, and I find out that it is a first person looter shooter, and my interest is instantly piqued. But then I find out who the publishers are, and I almost immediately become extremely hesitant and worried about how the game will turn out. And I imagine that a lot of you who just so happen to stumble across this video feel the exact same way that I do about the whole situation. Now, this is not a review of the full game, this is just my thoughts on the playable demo, so I can't speak on the full product of the game, and to be honest with you, reviews aren't exactly my cup of tea anyways. But with that being said, the final product launches in just under 3 weeks from when this video goes live, and when you play a demo or a beta of something that has that short of a gap between the trial and the release, you are essentially playing as close of a copy to the final product as you are going to get, and I'm going to treat it as such. There aren't going to be any, well, it's a demo excuses here. So, is Anthem worth the risk? Is the game good? And I've got to say, in the time that I played, I was honestly a little impressed by Anthem, but it took me a little while to get there. The demo drops you in with no tutorial of any kind whatsoever. Well, that's not completely true. There is a tutorial in the menu somewhere, but I didn't know that until after I played the first mission, which to that point was a bit of a struggle at first. The mechanics were weird and difficult to get used to, and a lot of my time in the first mission was spent running around frustrated trying to wrap my head around what was going on. But once I got the hang of things, once again, I have to say, for somebody that came into this game with no expectations other than I knew that I liked looter shooters, I was impressed by the gameplay of Anthem. I think there is some genuine fun to be had with this game when you play with friends, and that is what the real asterisk in the situation is going to be, being able to play with your friends. I had not played by myself, I only played with friends, but from what I was told, the experience is just okay playing by yourself, as you would expect it to be. Looter shooters and loot-based games find their replayability in grinding missions with friends for better gear, so that's not too much of a surprise or too much of a concern. But as far as the gameplay is concerned, from the time that I played, I had a pretty fun time with the game. The combat is extremely addictive. It takes a lot of its mechanics from other games like it, and if I had to describe it to you now, I would say that it's a mix between The Division, Destiny, and any fighting game you've ever played like Mortal Kombat. Now, that might seem like a weird comparison for a first-person shooter game, but the core gameplay mechanic of Anthem is trying to achieve combos with you and your Expedition Squad's abilities. So, just like you would try and achieve and keep a combo going to apply damage to your opponent in a fighting game, the same kind of thing applies to Anthem, and it helps with the movement system. I also got some Evolve vibes in there as well. The core gameplay mechanics of Anthem are surprisingly really nice, and the kicker for me is that it's got a difficulty element to it as well. This game is a bit of a challenge, but nothing too extreme. I was able to get through a lot of it without breaking too much of a sweat, but the challenge is there, even on normal difficulty, and that's something that I like. I think back to most of my time playing other looter games, and I just remember that a lot of times I would be going through the motions through missions just because the difficulty wasn't there, and the AI makes it challenging for you, for the most part. Sometimes they'll kind of just stand there and let you do whatever the hell you want to them, but for the most part, you'll be too engrossed in the chaos to notice that. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not. I'm kind of indifferent on that front, but overall, the core of the game's combat is really fun and addicting, especially when you set up a combo with one of your friends just kind of naturally. Like, say they throw a freeze grenade on some enemies and you come in with a slam melee attack and a fire burst or whatever and just wipe them all out. Moments like those are without a doubt what makes this game tick, and that coordination and teamwork plays a bigger role than I thought it was going to be. Some looter shooters emphasize it more than others. So it's really good for the game that BioWare killed the combat, like absolutely nailed it, since that's what you're going to be doing for the most of the time. So it's important to nail that, and I think that they have. But here's where the rest begins to kind of go downhill for me. Now, if you are clicking on this video to see me take a gigantic crap on this game, here's where you might get your wish. With all that being said, the game is fun, but I'm not sure if it's going to be long-lasting fun. And obviously, I can't answer all of that with just a demo that only delivers me about maybe 2 hours of content at the most, but my gut feeling tells me that this game is going to get boring pretty quickly, and it will get boring if the content surrounding the combat isn't up to par with the combat itself. I'm pretty worried about the endgame content for Anthem, and I'm also concerned that there is going to be no PvP in the game. Having played the game, I think there is a plausible way to take the mechanics of the PvE and make it into some kind of multiplayer mode, but I understand that a game like this doesn't need PvP to be fun also. A lot of the fun comes from simply playing with your friends and grinding to get to the best gear for your javelin, but for whatever reason, I just have this bad feeling like this game is going to get stale on content very quickly, and that the game is going to kind of follow the path of Destiny in its performance early on in the first few stages after launch. I do think that Anthem is overall a more engaging game than Destiny. I think the chaos lends itself well in that regard, but I don't know how sustainable the combat will be, especially if the lore and the story doesn't turn out to be great. And that's the one thing that I think Destiny really nailed, is the story and the lore once everything got going. But in terms of Anthem, with the snippets of the story that they showed us, I wasn't wowed. Sure, maybe with a proper introduction to the world and the lore and the characters, maybe it's something I can get into, but right now, I wasn't really invested. I don't think it helped that the voice acting for Matthias in the demo wasn't that great. I thought his performance was a bit cheesy and he was trying too hard to channel James McAvoy's performance in the movie Split, but I also really wasn't impressed with the social area because it wasn't really a social area. I didn't see any other players in the social area, and you walk so slowly that it made returning to the social area a completely an undesirable occurrence and experience. Not that it's going to sell you on the game, but it's really was just kind of blasé, I guess, to find the words for it. The music was noticeably quite spectacular, I'd have to say. It was very well composed. I'm not sure who composed the soundtrack. I'm sure Professor Google can find that out if you're interested, but the music was quite good as well as the sound design. I guess overall the story and the lore and the endgame are really going to depend all on the content that is released during the launch, and depends on whether it's being seen as good or not good. But it's also going to rely upon how well the open world plays, because it looks beautiful, but it does seem kind of empty. I will say that the performance of everything was extremely hit or miss. The menus were slow, the game seemed to fluctuate in terms of frames per second. Sometimes it felt like I was playing on a solid 30, sometimes the game smoothed up and seemed to be 60 frames per second, sometimes the game dropped frames and resolution, and other times it seemed to actually surpass 60 frames a second. So seeing how random it was, I wasn't really impressed in that regard. I will say that the game had some bad blue screens and crashing problems. I had a horrible glitch where Anthem not only lost its game audio, but it affected my party audio as well, and it felt like my headset was dying on me on the spot, but once I restarted the application, everything went back to normal. Also, while doing the Stronghold mission, the server crashed in the same encounter 3 out of the 4 times that I played the mission, and that was extremely frustrating, as you can imagine. So with that all being said, is Anthem a buy? That's the grand question. Is it worth the risk of spending $60? To be honest with you, with as much fun as I had with the game, I don't think it is. Not because the game is bad, I think it's very promising and it could be a success, and the success that EA needs it to be, but that's also the reason why I can't recommend you try the game at this point. It's EA, they'll find some way to mess it up, but also for me personally, I wasn't sold on the story and the lore of Anthem when I played it, and for me that's one of the most important parts, and the game is really going to rely upon its open world and its hidden content that we haven't seen yet to sell the game, and since I don't know what that content is, I can't recommend recommend the game without reading and waiting for reviews. But if I had to guess what was going to happen in the future, Anthem is going to be a good game, but it's going to be one that isn't going to really have enough content to keep players playing, and it's going to be a game that you will pick up on sale for $40 or in a bargain bin. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I know this is not a typical video on my channel at all, but I have been thinking about breaking into different games with how poorly Battlefield 5 has been received and how my interest in that game has been waning over the past couple weeks, and I know that you, my subscribers, have also kind of been noticing and feeling that as well. I'll definitely be doing that if DICE doesn't give us hard damn rental servers, but nonetheless, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like on it. It helps me out a lot, and if you are new here, subscribe. If you haven't already, turn on post notifications. My name is Nick, or Catalyst, and I will see you all another time.